Welcome to the talk on option choices for the Year 11s going into Year 12s about their A-levels for next year. We would usually do this as a coffee morning for parents, but obviously due to the COVID restrictions and the need to keep our community safe, we can't do that this year. So hopefully I can provide the same information that you need through this. If you have any questions, please email me or arrange to make an appointment to come and speak to me. So a quick overview of what we're going to cover, talking about how students make choices about next year and what they need to think about. School next year in Year 12 is very different to school that students have experienced up to now. They have a bit more freedom in choosing how they spend their time. And it's also really important that they think about life beyond school, beyond 18, because there are things they need to do to prepare to get into university that if they leave until it's urgent in Year 13, it's actually far too late. And there's no way of changing it because the opportunity's gone. There are things they need to think about doing now. Just like GCSEs, we use the Cambridge International A-levels as probably the most widely used international exam. And these are equivalent to the A-levels you would take in the UK at the same ages. There is one difference though. Cambridge still offer AS exams at the end of Year 12. And that's a standalone qualification, and you no longer get that in the UK now. You only have exams at the end of Year 13. So our students will sit the AS exams at the end of Year 12, and that is, first of all, a standalone qualification on its own, and also 50% of their final A-level grade. So it's really important they start working from the beginning of Year 12, because those Year 12 marks and the Year 12 exams count towards their final A-level. This is true of everything apart from art or music, and we do those all the way through and all the exams at the end of Year 13, and that's to make sure the work is spread out more evenly and gives students a better chance of success by not having to rush Year 12, and some of the work that would otherwise be done in Year 12 can move into Year 13, and it creates a more even spread of the work so they can do better. Progress into Year 12 is not guaranteed. Students need at least 5 IGCSE passes from A star to C, and this is because in the past students who haven't had that or haven't had a C grade in the subjects they want to study at A level have struggled to the point of not being able to complete them and failing them, and this isn't even a generalization. It has been true for all of those students. If you wish to study a subject that has core or extended options at GCSE, then you need to have got your C in the extended option. We would usually expect students to have studied the subject at GCSE, apart from business or travel and tourism, where you don't need to have studied them before. There's no point in pretending A-levels are easy, because they're not, but nor are they impossible for any of our students to do. They do need to realise that it is a big step up in the level of work that's needed, and they will need to work considerably harder than they do for their GCSEs. One of the big ways it differs is that they will need to undertake self-directed work in their own time. They will need to work out what it is they need to do to make best use of their time, and hopefully that's part of growing up. Obviously we don't let students flounder on their own, but they need to start showing more and more independence. As you can see on the slide, it says most students study 3 subjects, although it is possible to do 4. It is far better to do 3 A-levels and do really well in them than do 4 and just do fairly well in them. 3 really good A-levels is what you need to get into Oxford or Cambridge or somewhere like that, whereas 4 doesn't really confer any advantage on you, with 1 or 2 exceptions. If you want to do 4 A-levels, you really need to come and speak to me to make sure it's a sensible option for you. So at the moment, Students will make a free choice, nothing is compulsory. I will build a timetable from that. Then when the GCSE results come out, students will make a final choice depending on their results and whether their desires of what they want to do have changed in the next 6 months. The only warning there is it might not be possible to do all combinations of subjects then, because I've done the timetable for that year. If I can, I will adjust things, but I can't guarantee that everything will be available. I think this is quite self-explanatory. These are the subjects we offer at A-level here at Charter. There are no compulsory subjects. So the timetable for A-level students is they have 6 50-minute lessons for each A-level subject each week. That would usually be 2 double lessons and 2 single lessons. For those who need it for university, we offer optional 2 50-minute lessons per week for IELTS preparation. Some students will need that and some students won't. There's also, same as there is now for Year 11, 50 minutes PE lesson and 1 project-based learning lesson, which I will explain more about momentarily. This is a compulsory course that's unique to Charter School, and students in Year 12 and 13 have 1 lesson a week of this. One of the big focuses, certainly early in Year 12, is study skills. Students have more time to organise and self-direct their study. It's really, really important we explain to them what's expected and give them the skills they need to do that effectively. Then we move on to philosophy and ethics. This is a theory of knowledge course which looks at how students know what they know and different ways of knowing and what affects our perceptions of knowledge. As a part of the requirements for graduation, students need to have written a 3,000-word extended essay. This is really, really useful, A, for university applications, but B, also, it's what they're going to have to do at university. So it's a way of training them so they know what to do in their future lives. If they want to, they can turn this into an additional AS level through Cambridge, which is their international project qualification. Again, as part of the graduation requirements, students over the 2 years of Years 12 and 13 need to complete 50 hours of community service, and we will also spend some time looking at university preparation, making sure students know what's needed and give them time to write really, really good applications. Okay, so the rest of the students' timetable will be made up of individual self-directed study time, and this is something a lot of students really eagerly look forward to, but at the same time find really difficult to make good use of. So we will provide lots of help and advice on what they need to do. It's really important that students remember that this individual self-study time does not replace homework. It's as well as their homework. We expect students to do between 8 and 10 hours of independent work per subject per week, which takes at the time more or less up to the same as a full-time job. Some of that time will be directed by their subject teachers in the form of homework, and some of it will be the students identifying themselves what they need to do, whether that's more past papers or revising topics they didn't understand or preparing exam notes or wider reading or many, many different tasks. Of course, if students want to use that time to do their homework, that's fine, but they can also use it to review the lessons, the bits they didn't understand, to go over them again and again and again, because it's so important that they don't have gaps in their knowledge. They need to prepare revision notes because they have exams coming up at the end of Year 12 that are half of their A-levels. Similarly, they need to do past papers. As part of our usual preparation for exams, teachers will set past paper questions, but students also need to be doing more of these and off their own bat to cover the areas they've identified they need help with. It can also be really useful to read ahead what's coming next, so when the lesson does come around, they're more confident about the material, and also where there are bits they didn't understand, as the teacher gets to them, they know to be listening really carefully to make sure they understand. Wider reading is really important for university applications, and I'll come on and talk about that a bit more in a moment. And that's something else they can make better use of their time doing. They need to be independent and do this work, but we do provide help to make sure they make effective use of this time. Effort is the key to success at A-level. There is little relationship between GCSE results and A-level results. Some students do really well at GCSE and find the step up really difficult. Other students don't do particularly brilliantly at GCSE and suddenly find at A-level everything clicks into place and they understand it and know what's required of them and make amazing progress. All of the research shows that it's those students who put the time and effort in outside of lessons to understand stuff, to make sure they know what's needed in the exams and have prepared effective exam materials and so on, they're the ones who do well. If you don't do those things, no matter how clever you think you are and how well you've done at GCSE, you won't do very well. Much more than GCSEs, the choices they make now really affect the career and study options that are available to them after they leave school. So they need to think really carefully about what their options are and what they want to do in the future. The choices that they make now will really have an impact on what is available to them in the future in terms of, say, university study. It really will mean some doors are closed for them, so it's so important that they think carefully about what they're doing and what they want to do in the future and make sure those two ideas link together. Most obviously, this applies to medicine. So we have our group of budding doctors here, and if you want to join them and you've studied geography, literature and art, then it's not going to happen. Quite simply, you're not going to be able to be accepted to study medicine. If you want to study medicine, then you need to have done at least 2 out of maths, chemistry and biology. And to be honest, most people who want to study medicine will have done all 3, but you need to have done at least 2. This isn't true for everything though. For example, geography, they're far less bothered by the subjects you've studied. You don't necessarily even have to have studied geography before, although I would think that was quite unusual. That advice is all well and good if you know what you want to do, then you can make really considered choices, but lots of people don't know what they want to do. In which case, choose the things you're good at and the things you enjoy. If you're good at them or you enjoy them, then you're likely to do well and likely to get good grades, and the better grades you get, the more options there are available to you. Even when students have a firm idea of what they want to do in the future, it is important that they're realistic about their talents and abilities and what they're good at. We see too often students wanting to be, for example, a doctor and not being particularly good at science, and it makes it very difficult for them to get into highly competitive courses like medicine. It's also very difficult for them to write really good applications because their heart's not in it, and it becomes really obvious. So students need to be honest with themselves about what their skills are and what their desires are. So even if you change your mind and suddenly find yourself going down the wrong road, you are a long way from being alone. Very few people end up doing the same job at, say, 25 than they think they are now at 15 or 16. It's not a disaster. If your passion is in arts or humanities, then follow it. There are really, really good careers out there. It's not only engineers and doctors who earn good money. At first, engineers, and in particular vets, actually earn lots and lots of money. But over 10 years, the humanities and arts catch up and actually have the higher paid jobs. So to summarise this little bit, students do need to think carefully. These options they choose today will limit their choices in the future. Some doors might be closed to them and they have to go through other doors, so think carefully. Thinking more long term about universities, our students are really lucky. There is a huge world of opportunity out there and they get lots of help and advice on how to take advantage of all those opportunities and making the choices that are right for them. One of the advantages of being a small school is we can make our advice fit the individual, not just give general advice and hope it sticks, but actually think about what's right for each individual student and give them that advice. I'm a teacher, of course I'm going to say doing well in their subjects is important, and it is. However, it is not enough. Universities are looking for people with enthusiasm and passion and desire to want to do well. And if all you've done is what the teacher has told you to do, even if you've done that really well, that's not the same as showing that you have a passion, enthusiasm, initiative. And those are the skills we want to encourage in our students, and that's what will get them into the really good universities. So how do I show that passion, that enthusiasm? One of the main ways of doing it is through wider reading around the subject, going further than your A-level syllabus requires you to do. You don't have to do that for every single topic. But some topics are going to really fire your imagination, and others will just be things you have to do. Take those ones that fire your imagination and find books and read around it. But do more than simply read. Make some brief notes. When you finish reading it, make a summary. What did you like about it? What was interesting? What was thought-provoking? And then you can use that when you come to apply to university, or if you have a university interview, you can talk about that book that you read and it inspired you because, and that way you can show you have this enthusiasm rather than just pretend or say you have. What else could you do to show you have that passion and enthusiasm? Well, it really depends on what you want to study after you finished at Charter. So it could be going to a museum or going to an art gallery, but it's not as simple as going to a museum or an art gallery. Again, make some notes. What did you like about it? What was interesting about the paintings? What inspired you? Why did you go? What was interesting about it? And then you've got something to talk about. It could be taking part in MUN conferences or work experience or internships. It might be just taking part in the school production. We get lots of opportunities from universities and other organisations for essay competitions specifically aimed at A-level students. Take part in them. It gives you lots to talk about. In particular, this is great for universities because you can show you have an academic interest in the subject. It doesn't matter though what you do, you've got to show you have some sort of wider interest than just your books. At some point the school will almost certainly have to write a reference for you. It's really difficult to write a reference for this person sat on the right who has no interest, doesn't take part, because we don't have very much to say. We'll do our best for them, of course we will, but it's really hard to write an enthusiastic reference that says lots of great things about someone who doesn't do lots of great things. Similarly, their applications will struggle as well because they haven't got much to say. I like to use the metaphor of crossroads and choosing your path when thinking about A-level options and university choices, but the reality is not like the big picture here. It's much more like the smaller one. There are an infinite number of choices, and students need to spend a bit of time now and through year 12 and year 13 thinking about the range of options of what they might want to do. We have lots of students who want to be engineers, so I've chosen one university in the UK, and that one university offers 21 different engineering courses. So to say I want to be an engineer isn't really a lot of use. You need to think much more carefully about the kind of engineering you want to do. So within engineering we have mathematical engineers, we have mechanical engineers, we have aeronautical engineers, we have both electronic and electrical engineers, which are different. Civil engineers, design engineers, biomechanical engineers, chemical engineers, computing engineers, automotive engineers. You can do all sorts of different options with engineering, and that's just at one university. So quite a lot of thought and effort needs to go into planning what kind of engineering you want to do and what you need to do to show that you have an enthusiasm and a passion for that. Similarly with physics. A really simple search of universities came up with all these different combinations of subjects you can do under the term physics. And some universities will have a specialism in one area or another area. Even if you decide to just do physics, the university you choose maybe has a specialism in say, astronomy. Well, that might be really interesting to you, or it might not. So you choose very carefully what you want to do. Do you want to have that professional placement that means probably your third year of your degree is spent working with a company? Okay, it means you spend longer before you graduate, but it means A, you've had a chance to earn some money while you're a student, and B, when you come to apply for a job, you've got a distinct advantage because you've done a job and you can talk about that. The company you do your placement with often use it as an extended recruitment process, and they might well offer you a job. Do you fancy it with a year abroad, studying in another country? All of these options need thought, and that's what we will prepare them for through year 12 and into year 13. As I said at the beginning, if you have any questions about any of this, please get in touch with me and I will do my best to answer them. My email is on the screen in front of you. But in the meantime, thank you for listening.